Welcome to the Lancaster Outlook. I'm Wendy Williams. Water conservation has become a huge issue in the Antelope Valley. Public Works Director Randy Williams is just one of many working to bring awareness of the challenges that face high desert cities. We are in a drought and we have insufficient water supplies. Tell me, what is facing the Antelope Valley and the city of Lancaster when it comes to water shortages?
Well, just like the rest of the state of California in western United States, if you don't have water, you don't live. So basically we have to figure out how we can provide the water that's needed by our citizens, our businesses, so that they can survive. And we hope that we'll be able to do that so that not only do they survive, they thrive, and we keep seeing growth and prosperity in the valley.
But isn't drought cyclical? Shouldn't we expect some rain to come and solve all our problems in a year or two?
I wish it were that simple, Wendy. It just isn't going to happen. In fact, the high Sierras are so dry right now that just about any kind of rainfall that has been experienced in that area over the last several months almost immediately is soaked up on the spot where it hits the ground. So it's not even running off to get into the streams and the rivers that otherwise would be flowing to fill the aqueduct and bring water to us in Southern California.
And on top of that, we have a Northern California judge who has set down a ruling that says we can't take as much water from the aqueduct as we're accustomed to, correct?
That's correct. He, after many years of providing direction to the Department of Water Resources and to those who are called the state water contractors who buy the water from DWR as it comes down through the aqueduct. After many years of working with them about the diminishing population of a little fish called the Delta smelt, and now he's got some other fishes on the radar screen as well.
Very well-known Delta smelt now.
Yeah, very well-known Delta smelt. But that fish has been dropping in its population so quickly that ultimately he came to the conclusion that clearly what was happening or what was being done to protect them was not working. So he has put an injunction on the water suppliers and said you will then be limited as to the amount of water that you can pump to the south. And that has had a big impact on us and others in the Southland.
Does that mean that unless we do something at a state level to store water in other places or come up with other alternatives, we're going to have less water than we really need?
It definitely does. In fact, in 2008, our present calendar year, the water that's been made available to our local state water contractors, AVEC, Antelope Valley East Kern Water Agency, the Palmdale Water District, the Little Rock Creek Irrigation District, each of whom is a state water contractor, their supplies have been dropped to about 35% of what is normal. Now that's really a significant drop. In 2009, it's projected to be even worse. It may drop to as low as 10% of their normal supplies. And that will have a devastating effect upon us in the Antelope Valley throughout Southern California unless all the water purveyors and our citizens are able to work together to overcome this challenge.
And what would you say to people who say, well, we have a water table under the desert, let's just tap into our own natural resources?
You know, that sounds like a great solution. Sadly, though, the more you pump out, if you're not replacing it by natural rainfall or through some artificial means, eventually that water supply runs out. So that's the water for our future, for not just next year or 10 years from now, but 100 years from now. And you know, we are going to be very soon under a court order that limits the amount of water that we can take out of that.
Well, and if we take it out, isn't there the problem of subsidence, which then it kind of compacts and won't ever be able to hold as much water as it did in the previous years?
That has been a concern. It continues to be a concern and something that we definitely have to watch for. You know, we have some options though, and I think we're working towards those options in the form of water banking programs. Mm-hmm. Roseman Community Services District has joined a partnership with, I think it's called Western Water Development, a private firm. And so they've set up a bank in Kern County up near the Roseman town area. And AVEC has likewise purchased some land that they are hoping to establish a banking program on.
Explain to me what banking program
means. That's a good question. Banking is the process of bringing in extra water when it's available and then by either spreading it and allowing it to infiltrate into the soil or by injecting it into the soil. Then it would enter the aquifer, so it increases the amount of water supply that would be underground. So it's one of those artificial means of recharging the aquifer that we talked about.
Now, in the meantime, another part of the solution is for residents to use less water. And actually, the City Council has taken some steps to adopt ordinances.
Yes, Lancaster City Council this evening will hear the first reading of an ordinance on landscape design guidelines and practices for new development throughout the city of Lancaster. In July, they adopted an urgency ordinance about water wasting. Both of those are really directed towards what a lot of people will call water conservation, but what I like to call wise use of water. And really, that's exactly what it is. We are in a desert environment. That's must have been recognized by everybody who lives here by now. But we're not like other parts of the country that has a steady rainfall. Just this past weekend, I made a trip to visit my mother in the Midwest. And she was talking about it had been a dry year. They'd only gotten 60 inches of water so far.
Oh my,
you know?
What do we get, 10?
We get at 10, if we get
good.
10, we're doing really good. So she was, how should I say it? She was sympathetic to our cause. But we definitely need to change our habits, and wise water use or water conservation is a means to get there.
So these ordinances, is it zero skate and then wise use of water as far as the way we water our lawns and the way we wash our cars?
That's correct. You know, something on the order of 70 to 75% of all water that is used by a single family is used outside of the house. So it's not for the washing of clothes and dishes and brushing your teeth and flushing of toilets and all of those commonly practiced water uses inside the home. There's ways to save money there, ways to save money and water there. But outside the home is where we can see the biggest returns by putting in drought-tolerant plants. Not necessarily doing away with turf, but limiting the amount of turf that we put in our landscaping. By making sure that the irrigation systems that we have are matched to the plants. You know, not all plants use as much water. And in fact, if you overwater them, they will not thrive, they will die. And then you'll be replacing them. So different kinds of sprinkler heads and irrigation devices will put out either more or less water depending upon what plant needs are. So we need to control that better.
Do you think awareness will lead to conservation, or will it be the almighty dollar and the increase of water bills? Do we see that on the horizon? I
think it's going to have to be a mixture of all three. Since the council adopted its urgency ordinance in July for water wasting, I have been really pleased and impressed by the number of citizens who will call in with observations about problems where they see water running in the gutters of our streets. And we've all seen that. We know it's there. But they now are starting to go so far as to drive along and backtrack to see where that water is coming from and then helping us. And that is helping a great deal. So I think that's a real plus. There are people who haven't got the message yet. And they may not get the message until we start knocking on their doors and asking them to fix the sprinkler head that's broken or correct some other deficiency that they're not allowed by ordinance to practice.
Well, I have to say, you have certainly been doing a wonderful job getting the message out and loud and clear, and keep up the good work.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
You have been listening to the Public Works Director, Randy Williams. This is the Lancaster Outlook.